Hey 10th graders at RTHS. Today we have a few guests with us that we are going to interview regarding their experience and their knowledge about the Tunisian Revolution, or the Jasmine Revolution, which was the starting point for what became known as the Arab Spring that you have been learning about and preparing for your Flex Day. So we're going to start off letting them introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about themselves, just briefly your name and maybe just a tiny bit about you.
Okay, hi 10th grader, my name is Mohsen Swisi. I've been here in the US for the last 13 or 14 years. I'm a teacher here, I teach at Fayetteville State University. Hopefully we have a nice video for you guys. Bye-bye.
Hi 10th grader, my name is Firas Ben Ashur. I've been in the US for about 30 years now. Actually I've been here more than anywhere else. So we will try to answer all your questions. Hopefully we'll shed some light on what happened in Tunisia and the region in general. And enjoy your year, and maybe we can see you next year when you are in the 11th grade, I guess.
Hi 10th grader, my name is Amina Lawani. I was born and raised in Tunisia, and I came here like 14 years ago. So we're trying to help you with to shed some light on the Tunisian Revolution. We've been here when the revolution started, but we learned a lot, and we've been there more than one time, so we can help you out.
Before the Arab Spring, Tunisia was like relatively stable. It's a relatively prosperous country, you know, a moderate economic growth rate, like 5 to 6% every year. But the problem was that like the fruits of the economic growth were not equally distributed among all regions. Some regions were neglected, like for example the Deep South, the northwest of Tunisia. So pretty much only the Tunis, the capital, and the coastal area benefited from the economic growth. This is from the economic perspective. So pretty, sizable middle class. It's like life in Tunisia was like good for middle class, but like from the political perspective, it's a great deal of nepotism, like oppression, lack of human rights. It's basically dictatorship,
Okay.
So this is what maybe I can like summarize in a few minutes, like that. What's the life in Tunisia?
Great. Anything else to add?
Yeah, I mean, I'll take a step back quickly, and I'll just tell you a little bit about Tunisians, right? We, as people, we're culture hungry. We love to live, right? So in general, it's a peaceful population that didn't mind much about what happening at a political level, not from an engagement, but they knew there's not much they could do. So they focused more on living the good life with whatever means you have, enjoying the beaches. If you get a chance, go and search Tunisia on the web and look at the beaches, it's a beautiful country, 6 months of summer. People enjoy life, it's a young population in general. But as Mohsen said, politically, it was oppressive. It was actually rated among one of the most oppressive regimes in the region. Not from a bloody oppressive, but the cover and the oppression on freedom of speech, on the ability of movement, the ability to operate, to innovate, to be an individual. It was very oppressive. So think of it as the Sopranos. Running a country, practically my way or the highway, and I'll give you a very good deal that you cannot refuse, and that's how they operated.
Gotcha. Is that your experience as well?
Basically, it was a stable country, as Mohsen said. Everybody was free to do anything but talking politics. So basically, it was a good living for especially the coastal area and the capital city, but with no freedom of expression whatsoever and wide-scale corruption. For me, the trigger of the revolution, what like Mohsen said, the south and the southwest of the country didn't enjoy the well-being of the coastal area and the capital city, plus high unemployment, plus wide-scale corruption, plus no freedom of speech whatsoever, and those triggered what happened to Mohammed Bouazizi in Sidi Bouzid, which is one of the cities that was not wealthy whatsoever with high unemployment.
So, I mean, you gotta look at this and think of, it's not a single event, right? There is the reason that led to it, but there are all of the pent up demand that created the volcano before the eruption, right? So throughout the past, I would say 20 to 30 years, Tunisia faced a lot of economic shocks and a lot ups and downs. And like Mohsen and Amina said, there was this portion of the population that had not seen the trickle-down effect of the economic growth that some of the either upper middle class or I would say, the surrounding team of the ruling family in Tunisia, if you will. So all that pent-up demand of unfairness, of corruption, of lack of economic opportunities, lack of the ability to expand and spread your wings and be yourself. And then came the galvanizing event, which is in December of 2012, and a fruit seller, 2010. Wow, that's 5 years ago.
Yeah, 5 years.
2010. So a fruit vendor selling, and it's an example of corruption, a government official. The stories vary, but kind of confiscated the only mean he had to feed his family and feed himself, and out of desperation and out of not seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, he set himself on fire as a mean to protest. So, and after that, it's well documented. And then that led to the people,
Protest.
It was shocking. That event is shocking to Tunisians. Like I said, we're a peaceful population. That never happens, and when that happens, it's like, wow. This
is what I wanted to say. I mean, that act in itself, putting yourself on fire, was a shocking act to many Tunisians. They didn't expect somebody to go that far. So I think that act in itself triggered indignation from the population. And for me, it's not a surprise that it started in Sidi Bouzid. This is one of the. I would be surprised if it started in the coastal area or in the capital city. Sidi Bouzid is just one of the impoverished places in Tunisia with a high unemployment and no infrastructure whatsoever. So for me, it's not a surprise. Sidi Bouzid, Qasrin, all this, those were the movement, the protest movement started. Right. It was there.
I remember I was there in December. And I was in the capital, and you could feel so much tension, even though you don't see anything. Police forces everywhere. When I left the country just to exit through the custom and the borders, everybody was tense. You could tell. The air was heavy.
And that was the December it started?
Exactly. It was like 10 or 15 days of it started. I mean, I was there, and things were happening in the south.
Right.
I was on a business trip, and you could tell. I mean, we've heard about other events, but I've never seen it at least that tense in the capital. Right. And you have a feeling, but you doubt. Oh, it's going to happen. No, it's not going to happen. But at one point in December, the labor union, all the unions got involved. The union of lawyers, physicians, everybody got on the bandwagon, and it just became a wave that you can stop. Everyone I know participated somehow. I mean, either were in the protest downtown, or they were using social media to spread news, and so everybody I know did it, especially when it became part of what's happening in the capital and the coastal areas. And then you need to look at it. There's like two versions. Like there's the one just before, or all the events before the president fled, and then all of the unrest that happened after the president fled. Because when the president fled, things deteriorated from a security perspective. Then everybody was not only protesting, there was a curfew, but also protecting. If you remember some of the riots in the US, the next thing that happens after there's a lack of security presence is looting, and it's a well-known fact of what happens in revolution is you end up with riots and looting and stealing and crime and murders. People take advantage of it. So before that, a lot of people participated. There was a lot of jubilance, happiness. It's almost like your civil duty, talking to my brothers and everybody else who's done it. Right. And then after that was like, okay, I need to protect my family. I need to protect my neighborhood watch. I mean, it was the switch that happened is tremendous. So it was a pretty good experience, even though we were here. But God, we lived it on a daily basis, on the news, on the phone, on Skype. I mean, social media opened up completely.
I don't think there was much covered about Tunisia in the American media. They only start covering when the events are starting in the capital city. That's when the media got started to cover started the coverage of Tunisia. But it started late at the revolution, and a small few days after the president fled, after January 14. Which in Egypt, maybe because they knew it's going to happen somewhere else, they started earlier. But Tunisia, it was more at the end.
Do you feel it was a fair assessment of what was going on there, or that it didn't really give as much attention as it should be in the region?
My understanding is, as Amina mentioned, maybe people were were surprised that even the media here were surprised. They didn't pay much attention because no one expected, including ourselves, no one expected that. Because as mentioned by them earlier, the people are they are easygoing. They are not very violent people. That just take it easy, kind of attitude. So, but I feel that the aftermath of the revolution was well captured by the media. We have several articles in the Washington Post, in New York Times, in Wall Street. I feel that after the aftermath it was pretty much
it was the aftermath
addressed.
I think the media was surprised, and Tunisia was never on the map, media-wise or political-wise. It's just a stable, small country somewhere in North Africa. So I think a lot of people got by surprise, and they had to catch up on learning about Tunisia first. Where is it? So that's probably what happened. After that, I think we got mentioned at the State of the Union address, if you remember, standing ovation to what happened in Tunisia. So once people saw what the potential, what could this be for the region, then politically, it started taking shape in the US, and that led to more media coverage, more analysis about what's happened. It's funny because we still joke about it. You went from you cannot even talk to almost a diarrhea of freedom of speech that everybody now can talk and everybody's an expert. So the change obviously is not deniable, right? So the number one change is now you have freedom. You can say what you want, you can do what you want. It is as compared as how we live here. It really is that much freedom, and it's awesome for the Tunisians, for people who've never experienced it, and they get to experience it. It's definitely changed the way they live. But with that came some other, consequences and challenges. Now you see the economy and the development in east of the country open. It's not covered anymore with the government. So the unemployment, the inflation, prices are rising. Middle income families are under pressure. Even in the U.S. as well, but it's more so in Tunisia because of the economic situation. So as a population, I think we've gained a lot for the long term. What you need, a stable democracy, a participatory democracy, people engaged in their lives. But in the short term, there is such a shock to the system economically, which also affect the social fabric sometimes when you have that needs to be attended to pretty quickly. So that's what I see the difference between the two.
What is unfortunate is the condition that prevailed after the revolution. like, you know, because it was like, you know, like 6 months or a year later, the Libyan revolution like started. And that's like really, it was good for the Libyan, maybe, not good now, but it was good that they got rid of their dictator, but it kind of hurt the Tunisian economy, because the Tunisian economy relies heavily on sightseeing tourism. Okay, I think it's like maybe by some, you know,
12% of
yeah,
GDP.
maybe
something
yeah,
like
something like 12 to 10 to 12% of the GDP is like, you know,
that. The tourism
yeah,
industry.
exactly. So we before the revolution we have like an average of 7 to 8 million visitors, mainly from Europe, you know, and all. I mean that kind of faded away, like, you know, kind of like, you know, decreased to maybe half or even more than half. That create these factors compounded the problems. So I mean people that have high hopes, or high hope I should say, you know, and then it didn't materialize because of these problems, the economic, and then it's a process, you know. It takes its due course, you know.
At least from my experience, as I told you, I'm half Syrian, half Tunisian. At the same time, I had a business at that time. I launched a startup, and we had an office in Egypt. I had 50 engineers in Egypt with my partner working in Egypt. So we were, you know, surfing between 3 channels. It's funny because what's happening in Tunisia, and then you hear what's going on in Egypt, and then all of a sudden Syria. So it is definitely what happened in Tunisia was the catalyst. I won't say the reason, but it was the catalyst for the rest of them, right? And at a minimum, it showed the rest of the countries. And by the way, if you look at a map, if you look at all those countries, it takes days to fly probably between them, and it's as big as the US, if not bigger. So geographically, they're connected, but there are some nuances in the culture, nuances in the religion, nuances in the languages and the dialect. So even though you feel that you're some sort of same people, but there are a lot of differences. So for example, if Tunisia was the catalyst, then it showed the rest of the region that it can be done. I mean, think of what happened in Latin America in the 80s. Right? There was a struggle between capitalism or Western democracy and communism and socialism in Latin America. And it took almost 20 years for those countries to be stable, from Argentina to Brazil to all of them, and now they're part of the BRICS country. So it's the same thing happening, right? It's a contiguous mass of people. They feel somehow connected, either by language or by religion, that a major event, politically changing event that happened in Tunisia, it could have happened anywhere else. It just needed that. It's a volcano, the whole region is sitting on a volcano, and that flame came in and just lit it up in Tunisia, and everybody says, "Oh, we can do it too."
We can do it too.
Now everybody did it in their own way. That's the
The
nuance.
norm wasn't the same,
Yeah.
but people were saying, why, if Tunisian can do it, why not us?
Yeah, and that's what happened.
And that's what happened. And the population were, if you can get rid of the dictatorship by protesting, we can do it as well. And this is how it all began. Afterward, the outcome of the revolution was different from country to country.
Yeah, we were lucky that our dictator decided to leave pretty quickly.
And if I am to summarize it, it's like we kind of ignite the flame, but we could contain it. We have been successful to contain the flame.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it wasn't contained. The flame wasn't contained in Egypt and in especially Libya and in Syria, let alone Syria. High 10th grade again. So I think this I think this will stimulate your interest in the history and what's going on in the global. Globally, so I think that we are becoming global citizens. We need to know what's going on in other areas of the globe. So I think that will give you a nice view of what's going on in the Arab world. Thank you.
So I guess I leave you with one lesson that is also important for me, that liberty and freedom doesn't come at a cheap price. we take it for granted sometime here that we're able to have that kind of freedom and that kind of ability to express yourself and be yourself. Other regions in the world are asking for the same, and you could see the price they're paying to get to where we are today. So be responsible, be a citizen of this world, learn more about what's happening so you make a informed judgment and conclusion about other cultures and about the world that we live in today.
Hi, 10th grader. I'll encourage you to study the Tunisian case. It's an interesting one. It was it was a mostly peaceful revolution. The transition was pretty good with some bumps, but we came in, we made an election, we made the first one, it was successful. We made a transitional period, and then we made another election, and it was also successful. I invite you to follow the case study that is Tunisia. 5 years from now, we're going to a next round of election, and hopefully we'll still be free as we are these days with all this freedom of speech we have that we didn't have before, and the right to cast a vote, which wasn't the case before. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just one final word. 10th grade is a very beautiful country to visit. So please plan.
Come to visit Tunisia.
Summer, in the summer, right? Great.